right now, Billy Cunningham. It is a great day to be an American. John Tamney, this is the last time you'll be with me this year, I am certain. How does that make you feel?
You're cutting me off until 2011?
Well, I'm off for the next 2 weeks. I go to the winter's retreat at Wolf's Lair in Cape Coral / Naples, Florida. We have the kings and the queens of talk radio that get together the day after Christmas for a week. Sean Hannity and I are the conveners. This year we have Neil Bortz coming in, Scott Shannon, Laura Ingraham, Mark Levin. So it should be quite a gathering of Eagles.
Yeah, it's an impressive group and a well-deserved vacation, I hope, too.
Yes, very good. So I like it. So let me ask you a question, John Tamney, with your permission, of course. It came out about 20 minutes ago as far as the census relative to which states are losing congressmen and which states are picking them up. Now, on one side of the ledger, these are the states losing representatives in Congress because of population shifts. The states losing congressmen because of the shift in population are Michigan, Ohio, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and California. The states that are picking up congressmen are Texas, Georgia, Florida, South Carolina, New Mexico, North Dakota, and Nevada. Now, why do you think states are losing congressmen, and why do you think other states are picking them up?
Well, the first one that stands out, of course, is the states that are losing them have higher tax rates.
Yes.
And in an increasingly interconnected world and country, individuals can move to where their work will be penalized the least. So, I mean, I think there's the obvious one. You could throw weather in there. It seems that people are more eager to move to good weather states. And the other thing that I would throw into that is, and it's been a frequent theme with us, is Michigan and Ohio in particular Michigan. They've been clinging to the industries of the past for decades now. They've got a good line to Washington to prop up those industries, but the result is they keep driving away their best and brightest, and that the best and brightest want to work in future-seeking industries, not the industries of the past. And so it reminds us yet again that you when you bail out poorly run industries, ultimately you depress the good people in the state, and they move on.
When you talk about Michigan, Ohio, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, things come to mind, which is, the weather was the same weather in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s. It didn't change any. But those states are heavily unionized. They have large, powerful public employee unions. They are bluest of blue states generally that have Democratic governors with large so-called safety nets that ensnare people within its grasp. There are also states that have an aging population, as opposed to Texas, Georgia, Florida, which has an aging population, but you have to have money to move there, South Carolina, New Mexico, and Nevada, which those states tend to be red states. They tend to be less public employee unions. They tend to be states that have more entrepreneurial spirits. Texas providing, as far as positive job growth in the past 2 years, 75% of all the new jobs in America in the last 2 years were created in the state of Texas, because there's a sense of government working with, not against, entrepreneurs. If you're in New York or New Jersey, you have governments there and bureaucracies that tell small businesses you can't come here because it is too difficult. You put these 7 or 8 things together, and people are voting with their wheels and with their feet to get the hell out of Dodge.
Yeah, let's be honest about what this is. The states that are losing people are the ones that tell the productive that you will pay for the unproductive. Whereas a state like Texas, and I lived there I think at least 5 or 6 years of my life, there's no state income tax. And even better, the legislature doesn't get together once a year. These guys all work under the laws they make. They get paid a very small salary to be in session every other year. And so once they make the laws, they have to go out and work under them, and no surprise, they are governing lightly so that businesses can grow. And big surprise that individuals around the country would want to take advantage of that.
Wouldn't it be great if the Congress met every other year? I mean, I would pay
fabulous.
them. I would give them twice as much money. I'd give them $1 million a year each if they would agree not to meet. In the year 2011, I'd say take the $1 million on condition, don't go to Washington, stay home.
that you won't go to Washington. I would love that. I'd love to bribe them to govern less. Or the other thing is, I'm one of these people that believes that public service should be paid zero. I think these guys should get per diems to maybe support reduced living circumstances and their meals, but that's it. I mean, public service is supposed to be a sacrifice, and it's something that's supposed to be brief so that you go back and live and work under the laws that you create. For a lot of these guys in Congress and in the Senate, this is the highest paying job they've ever had. I mean, it's great for them. They get treated like kings while they're here. That's not the way it should be.
Now, another point came to my mind recently, and that is when you're successful and you're a good American company and hiring people and you're in the manufacturing end of things. Let's face it, most American businesses cannot move overseas because the nature of their products or services are such that it has to be provided here. But the companies that can move, they move to China, they move to Malaysia, Vietnam, wherever they go there, and they fold up their operations here, maybe go to Mexico. The bad American companies, when they fail, instead of punishing them by forcing them to sell their good assets and for those who invested to take the hit, what we do is prop up artificially like zombies the bad companies with giveaways and stimulus plans, and then the good companies leave America, which is why we have a middle-class employment problem. Do you agree?
Yeah, I generally agree. I would just say that the companies that move their operations elsewhere, the statistics at least show that for every job created, say in China or Malaysia, more than one is created in the United States, that it's a way for them to expand their operations. It's a way for them to be more profitable on the way to attracting investment, and you need investment to create jobs. So I like when companies go global. If I'm starting a business, I'm working for shareholders who want me to sell as many goods as possible, and if that involves having a big presence in China, all the better. And then I certainly agree on the other ones. We tend to prop up the failed companies, and no surprise there that when we do that, of course, we slow down the economy, but also what we do is it's a signal in the states that are propping them up that they're not evolving economically, and big surprise then that individuals in those states would move to where failure is allowed. I think Las Vegas is a classic example. There are no sacred cows in Las Vegas. If you fail, you die. And the result is not a loss of jobs, but Las Vegas attracting individuals from around the country. They want the dynamism.
Well, the fact of the matter is also with Obamacare that if Obamacare was such a good idea, how come the federal government under Obama has issued almost 200 waivers to companies and labor unions who don't have to participate in Obamacare? He's given one to the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. He's given one to the AFL-CIO, various elements. He's given one to McDonald's. In other words, if you make large political donations to the Obama administration, you get a waiver. If you're connected and can't supply votes through labor unions, you get a waiver. The rest of us that are not connected to Obama can't get a waiver. How's that fair?
It's not fair at all, and it speaks to a government that's doing things that it should not be doing. There's nothing in the Constitution that allows for federal involvement with health care, but what all these waivers certainly prove is that it does not drive profits in corporations, and corporations are in business to create profits. This is just another weight being hung on businesses, and the end result is going to be less investment in U.S. companies, and as a result, less job creation. You don't get jobs without investment, and when the government is forcing giving citizens positive rights on the back of corporations, is it any surprise that they move elsewhere or just implode altogether?
Yeah. Drudge Report has it: New York, Ohio, Illinois, Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania lose seats. Excuse me. And for those that had the weather argument, the weather was there 20, 30, 40 years ago. It's not the weather. It's large bureaucracy, heavily unionized, rust-belted communities as opposed to young, vibrant societies. You must be permitted to fail, which also gives someone success. And so the American people are voting with their tires to get the hell out of Dodge, including my state of Ohio, because it is too difficult to start businesses here. Taxes are too high. Bureaucratic control is too great. We'd rather go to parts of the country where there's less bureaucracy, less taxes. In the state of Florida, there's no income tax. In Texas, the legislature meets every other year, as you point out. So there's less bureaucracy and there's more freedom. And so you feel like a slave in Illinois or Ohio, and you're free in Florida and Texas, and that trend's going to continue, isn't it, John?
It's most certainly going to continue, and let's agree that that's one of the positives of the U.S. system. It's not the way it used to be, but the great judge Louis Brandeis once said that states are laboratories for ideas. Well, New York, Ohio, Michigan, Massachusetts, and New Jersey have proven that their ideas of collectivism, whereby we shackle the productive to pay for the unproductive, don't work. It drives away the best and brightest, or the vital few. Thank goodness that we live in a country where there's competition among states. The greater shame, of course, is that if we were truly constitutionally governed, the differences between states would be even more acute. I mean, the sad reality today is utterly contrary to what the founders intended. We are slaves. We are kept captive by the federal government. The founders intended the federal government to do very little so that people could choose the kind of government they want. But now we get this big federal government despite the fact that we don't want it, so we're more likely to move to other states as a way of just, at the very least, getting smaller government.
And the other thing, the FCC is announcing now that they have new rules to regulate the Internet. Darrell Parks talked about that this morning. But the FCC, federal government bureaucrats, are going to decide what can and cannot be on the Internet. Isn't that great?
Yeah, I mean, what a scary thought. I mean, is it any wonder that we're having a job creation problem today? I mean, I think you would agree that the Internet has been a source of a lot of job creation in modern times.
Yes.
But who'd expand on that today, knowing that some unelected bureaucracy in Washington can tell them how they can charge customers for use of their Internet pipeline?
Yeah.
Big surprise that investment is down in a lot of areas. When the government tries to control it, that's not something that is luring investors so that there can be expansion. It's telling investors to hide their money.
John Tamny, I will not be with you for at least 2 or 3 weeks, and I wish you and yours a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Yes, likewise, Bill. Have a great time off, and talk to you in 2011.
You're the man, John Tamny. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's continue with more. He may be my number one guest of the year. I'm going to take my journal home tonight and find out, prepare my records. Every show I keep copious records on. And this began on January the 7th, Thursday of this year. My first guest at 12:07 was Jumpin' John Bateman of Channel 5, about 2 to 4 inches of snow. And he's gone. And then I had Kevin Robinson on later that day, so we had one hell of a snowstorm on January the 7th. Then on the 8th, we had Cody Willard, John Bateman, Sheriff Richard K. Jones, Colonel Randall Larson, about Terror in the Skies, and Ken Brew. So I have a record of every show I've done this year, which I keep every year. So I'm going to take this home with me tonight and determine the top 10 guests that I had by frequency. And I would say that Ken Brew doesn't count because he gets a paycheck from here, and Larry Dieters doesn't count either. Although he doesn't get a paycheck from here, he works here. So what the hell? It's got to be like a guest. And I'm going to let you know tomorrow who wins that shameless poll. But until then, it's you, me, and the American people. Give me a call at 513-749-7000, pound 700, with a great Christmas story or more. Plus at 2:07 today, Leslie Isaiah Gaines of Gaines & Gaines Attorneys at Law will be with me and you at 2:07. Bill Cunningham, 700 WLW. You know, I have a little bit of hope in Ohio that John Kasich's going to turn this thing around. And this isn't just a Democratic deal, because for 16 of the last 20 years, the governor of Ohio has been a Republican, 16 of 20. So, and the legislature has been either all Republican or part Republican for probably all of my life. And so the bureaucratic layers that occur in county and state government, the mandates that the state puts upon school districts, the mandates the feds put upon school district is layer after layer after layer, something like lasagna that goes on for years and generations, which is why Illinois, Michigan, Ohio, New Jersey, New York, and Pennsylvania are losing congressional seats because of a shift in population toward Texas, Georgia, Florida, South Carolina, New Mexico, and North Dakota. So for those who say, well, it's about the weather, I've never been in the state of North Dakota. Maybe you've been in North Dakota. But I have a sense that it is one frigid place to be. But there's low cost, low government, no income tax, less bureaucracy. The federal government is going the way of Illinois, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Ohio, New Jersey, and New York, At the same time, many state governments are going toward Reagan Republicanism. Most of the cities in this country are financially bankrupt by any fair standard, including the city of Cincinnati and certainly Hamilton County, which owes hundreds of millions of dollars that it cannot pay for deficit in the stadium bond issue. And then, of course, the state of Ohio is $8 or $9 billion upside down. If a business was that way, the federal government would bail it out. But I am told now by John Boehner that the bailout checks are not coming to these high-cost states, the bluest of states that are failing, instead of the reddest of states that are succeeding. So your thoughts on that, if any, at 513-749-7000. Essentially, you and I have a government we cannot afford. We cannot afford the city government. We cannot afford the county government. We cannot afford the state government. And we cannot afford the federal government. And many municipalities are about to file bankruptcy. They have to. The big-time labor union deals are done. And the arrogance and she was impudent. Kathy Harrell was impudent to me and very disrespectful to the voice of the common man a few days before the birth of the baby Jesus. She now owes me 2 apologies. Not just one, Kathy Harrell, but 2. Profound, serious apologies. Let's continue. Bill Cunningham, 700 WLW.